Yeah. Welcome to a new and exciting episode of the Weekly Wowos. My name is Dennis Musali, your weekly host, and this week we have so much stuff to unpack from a weekend that had a lot of sporting action. And this week I hope you didn't miss the Kira 8 that was being live streamed by the Kawowo sports team, hosted by the JT Jaguars. So all that action was live on our YouTube channel. But we were also in Gulu for the Gulu marathon. A lot of content from the team there in Gulu. Some of it good for public consumption, the other for only the WhatsApp group at work. But the guys clearly had a lot of fun, also supporting a very, very good cause in Gulu. But we on the show this week, we're going to talk about changes in the technical team for the Uganda Cranes. I think we're one of the first guys to break the news of who their new assistant coach for the Uganda Cranes is. But Pirates doing the double this season. And someone has been bragging for a very long time for being the octopus. He's getting everything right. Franklin Kawowo predicting last week that the Pirates will be able to do the double, considering that they've been the most interested team in the Uganda Cup. I think it is paid off for them how they didn't take the sevens very serious to try and focus on the Uganda Cup. But to start off that conversation, I have Franklin Kawowo, the editor of Kawowo Sports, and our rugby connoisseur, Joseph Man Muhumuza. We've been missing you.
Who's sport man to go?
JH Sati, that one. I think after the show, I think he's going somewhere.
It is Mikolo season.
December.
And later on, we'll be joined by Edwin Kaukule for us to be able to have a wonderful show. But as always, let's start off with our starters. Joseph, you're the guest this week. What have you been up to?
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me here once again. It's been a minute. You guys did great last week. Super proud of you. But my start of the week comes from the Nile Rapids, who successfully defended their Uganda Cup title. Because remember last year in January, they beat the Avengers. They actually upset the Avengers to win that Uganda Cup. And now this year they went in as, the favorites, and they retain their trophy. So kudos to them to see that they're making those strides, not only in the sevens, but also now in the 15s game.
Yeah, the Nile Rapids have really been improving. Once, clearly, Ugandan sport, when you sort out that background noise, everything else on the pitch will sort itself out.
Yeah.
Especially when they got their house in order. That's when they started winning in the sevens. And somehow they've just not stopped winning. They look like the team that could unsettle the likes of Avengers and Black Pearls on the ladies' scene in rugby.
Yes, that's true. Then, first of all, something worthy to note is that sevens rugby is a very good entry point for most teams. And we saw it with the Ginger Hippos themselves, who introduced themselves on the scene as the sevens side. And then they went on to do great in the 15s. The same pattern has been with, the Nile Rapids, who have done the same thing. At least now the Nile Rapids have a little bit of stability in there. But the Ginger Hippos are still struggling with some administrative issues. And I think that's how we saw them struggling against the Gulu Elephants when that game ended 38 for the Hippos and 33 for the Gulu Elephants. You can imagine a team from a region where they play about 2 games the whole year, stressing a Ginger Hippos side. So getting their backroom, politics right for the Nile Rapids has actually helped them a lot, and that's why they are winning.
Yeah, and maybe before we move on, how does, again, the noise has not yet died down completely. Won't that affect them next year?
Well,
the departure of one of the groups to form another team and then things like that.
Unfortunately for the women's game, they don't have the luxury of numbers to go and just start something new. Just like that. But also for the Ginger Storm, who have now broken away from the Ginger Hippos, you can tell that they have a few key figures from the Ginger Hippos side, and I think that is a luxury the Nile Rapids do not have. Just to go back to the sevens a little bit, when the Nile Rapids missed the first circuit, during that circuit, the Ginger Hippos as it was, they went and brought Abachuba from Rwanda. If you went to Rwanda and the one product you want to import from Rwanda is a rugby player, then I don't know. But yeah, so the Hippos managed to get some players to play in the Coronation Sevens, whereas the Nile Rapids didn't play entirely. Then when they went to Gulu, the Nile Rapids fielded some schoolgirls, random schoolgirls from around Gulu, and we all saw what happened to them. So it is important to know that for the men, they can always adjust. For the men, they can always adjust. They can always get in newer players and whatnot, because the base, although it isn't so big, but the base is enough to feed two or three teams from the same region, which and you can't say the same for the women's game.
Yeah, the women don't have that luxury yet, but we'll be getting into that rugby conversation later on. Franklin, your starter this week.
It is hard for me to usually start with negativity, but I think this week I want to be a little.
I'm trying to remember when you were positive.
I want to be a little
struggle.
bit. So last week, in the national team, or 3x3 is named for the Africa Cup. What happened was that the basketball fraternity didn't really like the men's team, especially that had Fayed Bali, Peter Blank, it had Titus Wall, and Rogers Downer. The people around basketball knew that was a calamity waiting to happen, because when you talk about 3x3 and in terms of competitiveness, how physically demanding a 3x3 game is, everybody who has been following basketball knew none of those players was up to it, apart from Peter Blaine, who is probably the best 3x3 player in the country, and probably Fayed Bali. People were not convinced with what Titus Ruwal and Rogers Downer would add to the team. And as you would expect, on day one, it was
Thrashing.
done. You know how you go for an Africa Cup and on the opening day you're no longer part of the conversation. And that was it. The 3x3 program, I think, needs a little bit of, should I call it overhaul in a way? I think we've gotten so comfortable. Of course, Uganda used to be at done at 23 World Cups, but that was usually for the women's side. But the men's side has not been really productive. So if anything, the 3x3 basketball needs to be taken a little bit more seriously. It was embarrassing seeing what was happening out there, and not embarrassing because I mean, when an ordinary fan sees that beforehand, that it is going to be calamity, you know it is that bad, and so the 3x3 needs a little bit of rethinking for the country. That was terrible.
Yeah, where did the boys finish? I tried to follow, but I don't remember. Was it just the thrashing that was the end of it all?
Yeah, I think
I think they lost to Tunisia. Was it Tunisia that thrashed them?
Yeah, lost to Tunisia. I mean, after day one, everybody else switched off because, in fact, when they went, the questions around whatever, around I mean, basketball, WhatsApp groups, and social media, that kind of stuff, were like, what exactly are these guys going to do? And of course, one of the players who believes he's better suited for the game. He plays for Summit. Ngobi came out a little bit talking how it is like a rewards program for people to get onto the national team and all that.
So it wasn't like merit-based for a lot of people, I think.
That is the thought process of many people, because in all honesty,
who's responsible for those decisions of who will play and who won't?
I think Nicholas Natweza is the one in charge of the 3x3 in the country, and I think he's the coach as well, or 3x3. So
do you think his hand was forced in terms of who should be on the team or not?
It is his decision to make. So if anybody has to take the fall, it has to be him. So in terms of what that 3x3 looks like, it is all on Nick and Teresa.
Okay, interesting. We'll see what the feedback that comes up from the 3x3 team that didn't do so well. I just had it in another conversation where people were not happy about the selection of the team because some of the players didn't have their best season locally. So you felt there were better options, sort of fill the places that had been taken. But ultimately, you can just have an opinion. The responsibility lies with other people.
Yeah, and when you think of it, they are not entirely wrong. Titus Ruwal barely played the whole season. He came in with strapped knees for the playoff finals. Rogers Downer was as poor as they come at Still Oilers. I mean, that alone should tell you that I think this was not us putting our best foot forward. But then you ask yourself, which other big men are more suited than those? You know, you look around and
There are not so many options available.
there are not very many options
Exactly.
as well, and that, I mean, in a way makes the coach's decision a little bit maybe easier even when it is not supposed to be.
Yeah,
For those who wanted to see, I mean, players like Arthur Wanyoto because of the season he had with Blazers to be there, but I don't know if he's a 3x3 player.
I think it's a horses for courses type of selection. So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
This time it just didn't go well for them.
Yeah.
The 3x3 team at the Africa Cup. Franklin has written a very good story on Kawowo Sports if you check it out. At first I thought he had made a mistake, but then he's the editor. I looked at it, it was Olympus has fallen. So in my head I'm like, did you want to mean Olympus has fallen? But when you read the detail, you'll understand why. Sort of breaks down the whole season for City Oilers and what went wrong for them. So you should look for it and check it out. But for me, my starter for the week, I want you to go to the Kawowo Sports website. Just look for, we've created a special tab for the AFCON tournament in Morocco. It has all the details. We'll break down all the stories. The groups are being previewed by the football team. That has Ismail Chionga, David Isabile, Joe Moita, and Edwin Kaukule. So make sure you look out for it if you want to get informed about who are the favorites, who are the players we should look out for. It should give you all this information about the AFCON. And most certainly, of course, our team will be down there very, very soon to give you all the updates live from Morocco. And finally, they've been asking me to invite people. I think we need to invite our biggest weekly Wowos fans for the Kawowo Sports Party. It will be happening on the 18th. So if you've been looking for all the biggest sportsmen come through, I'll tell you. So make sure if you want to meet your stars,
including the Konosa.
including the Konosa. If you want to meet your favorite football stars, just make sure 18th December.
That is Thursday next week.
Yeah, we're going to drop the pin to our offices, which will be going down here at the Kawowo Sports offices when we have our annual end of year party. And normally all the biggest sportsmen in the country come through. So if you're one of our favorite viewers, we are sending you a free pass to make sure you can come through for the Kawowo Sports end of year party. But let's get into the conversation. Let's start with the rugby and why Joseph is here. Pirates doing the double. But first, let's start with the atmosphere. Nambo. There was a debate whether to take it's been the national team games that have been happening at Nambole. But to break with tradition, this time the final of the Uganda Cup happening at Nambole. Then I heard somewhere people saying, as clubs, I wish it had been at maybe KPA or Chadi, better atmosphere and things like that. But ultimately, in neutral venue, how was the atmosphere on Saturday? That 10K, did people come through enough to make sure it was a proper party?
Yeah, actually, the numbers were there, and for the first time, I think rugby fans were there for the sport itself, and not for the after party or for the whole experience that was happening, because you could tell that that whole main stand was filled to the brim, and then some other areas were also filled with rugby fans. But when it got to the after party, the environment wasn't, that serious, but that is content for another day. We shall get there for
because
another
there's,
day.
There's a way you can go to Nambole and it doesn't feel like it is sort of like a strict place. There are certain things you can't do.
Yeah.
You need to behave yourself. Is that sort of the feeling that people, like an ordinary rugby fan will have? Because now it was entirely mostly rugby people, you could only commit yourself if you're either a Pirates fan or a Heathens fan.
Yeah,
There were
but-
no outliers this time.
Well, the thing is, just to take you back a little bit, when they made this decision, they said that they were choosing a neutral venue. Now, the Uganda Cup final last year happened at Kings Park Arena, and Pirates wasn't involved that time. It was Heathens against Rams. That's understandable, neutral venue. But now this year they couldn't select either Chadondo or KPA because well, the teams are involved. But then on the other hand, I'm one of those who was thinking that Heathens should have been given that final because throughout the whole tournament, the criteria was simple. You win, you have a better margin, you host the game. And they won their game against Buffaloes more comfortably than the Pirates did against the Cobs. But that is besides the point. Then when you look at the environment that was at Namboli this weekend for the Uganda Cup 2025, and you compare that to the environment that was in Entebbe at Entebbe Works Grounds, you know that ground just behind the market.
Yeah.
Then you compare that atmosphere in 2023. Remember, that was at a time when we were just getting back into rugby, and you know, lockdown is now fully over and whatnot. So people have the freedom to like sort of go out and have fun and watch rugby. But the numbers weren't as many as they were at Nambole this weekend. I think that the whole selection of the venue was actually a masterstroke because for the first time, Franklin can bear us witness every time a game is done, some of the kits are unrecognizable, especially when they play from places like some places. When they play from...
They start with Swampunu, just say it.
For example, when they play from Swampunu, the kits are unrecognizable. You have to feel sorry for the referees sometimes because now they don't know who is where and whatnot. But the ground at Nambole is very pristine. It's the players say that it is soft. The balls were bouncing in unusual ways that guys are not used to, and probably that is an experience that our players need to get used to more, especially if they want to play at bigger stages in future. But the ground itself was fantastic. The fans came out in big numbers. I personally have issues with the setup for the after party, for the celebrations. But yeah, I think it was a masterstroke.
You see, Dennis, one of the most important things that I think rugby had not done previously is trying to put players first. Being able to play at a ground where somebody is not going to make a kick. Wali work as well. We could have a good day. Where the ground is going to be fair for both sides. I mean, the weekend before, I'll tell you a story that I was told about the Legends game. One of the guys on that team, after the game, said, you fall and don't want to get back up. And you see, that is the kind of playing surface that makes the game enjoyable, not just for the fans outside, but for the players as well. Players. Going down for a tackle, knowing that you're not going to get up and then start looking at your arm. Is it bruised? And that kind of stuff. I think that adds some sort of extra freedom to play the game the natural way rather than taking care of what you're going to be looking like after making that tackle or when that tackle is made on you and that kind of stuff. I think in terms of selecting, it doesn't matter. Kings Park is not a good ground, that's for sure. Neither is Chadondo. Okay, I mean in terms of safety and all that. While you're going to have mud and everything else at Chadondo, but Kings Park, the ground is not completely clear of the stones and all that. You make a try and then you come up bruised and that kind of stuff. So being at Nambole, I think, was perfect for both sides.
Yeah, masterstroke. I think someone summarized it in great for the players, not so good for the fans. Yeah. But okay, let's talk about the game proper itself. Pirates running away with it, defeating the Heathens. Joseph, break it down for us. But let's be fair. Let's start with the ladies. I mean, the She-Wolves and the Now Rapids competing in the first game of the afternoon. I hope it wasn't so hot for them in
the
that afternoon
the sun was
sun.
up.
Yeah.
The sun was definitely up.
Yeah, but the Now Rapids defending their title against the She-Wolves. The She-Wolves, for all the wars that their boys had in, trying to compete in the top flight, it seems for them, I don't want to say they had an easy time getting to the final. But, against all odds, they got into the final against the Now Rapids. But just not good enough against a very resilient Now Rapids team.
Oh yes, so the She-Wolves had a very confusing. They had a very confusing campaign. They started it by losing to the U's, and then after losing to the U's, they get a Shigezi Queens and they beat it 100. And then I think they lost another game there. Yes, they lost the game against Avengers. Then they get into the semi-final and they beat the Panthers, and the pattern just continued into the final: win, lose, and unfortunately they in the final and then they lost. But in the semi-final, first of all, when they beat the Panthers, we have to note that the She-Wolves were short of numbers. Some of their main players had gone away to play at the Emirates Sevens in Dubai as an invitational side, so they were short-handed, but then they managed, to sort of win that game. It was a very scrappy game, not a good advert for women's rugby, because the Panthers are just up and coming, whereas the Wolves, who would have run away with it, couldn't. The game ending 10-5, but a win is a win. So they get into the final. They have all 5 of their players who have just come back from Dubai, and then they are going to play a Now Rapids side that has just beaten the team they beat again last year in the final. The Now Rapids beat the Avengers with that last-minute try from fullback Minat Namuno, and they got into the final. So when you look at both teams, they're sort of similar in the style of rugby they play. They love to move the ball. They are not going to take all that contact because naturally they aren't gifted in size. They are quite small girls, so they prefer doing that running rugby, which they do very well in the sevens, but also try to replicate in the 15s. Obviously, when you get to set pieces like the line out, sometimes you notice that they can't lift the jumper sometimes, which is normal. They will get there, and then the scrums are sort of like kutukiriza mukolo. Yeah, you can help me. They are not necessarily, and because
Ticking a
there's
box.
because they're uncontested scrums. But this one isn't an uncontested scrum. It is contested, but they're just there.
Just there to set up.
Just get together, set up, ball in, ball out, and we continue playing. No pushing, nothing. The game goes on. Yes, but they are both similar in the style of rugby. They play that running rugby. And when I was speaking to one of the players from the Now Rapids, they told us that they knew that this sort of thing would happen, where they are going to all be playing that running rugby. And so their target was to do what? To sort of close out the game in the first half and, just see out the second half, because they knew that they had to score very many points in the first half, because when it gets to the second half, these players with all their sevens experience and, that sevens fitness, they can go all the 80 minutes. And that's what almost happened in that game, because the first half ended 14-5 for the Now Rapids. Then they get into the second half and the She-Wolves turn on the heat, and it was almost ugly for the Now Rapids, getting a record 5 yellow cards in that final, including 1 yellow card coming from a penalty try that they conceded, but they managed to see off the game and win it, and they are champions once again of the Uganda Cup.
Yeah, the Now Rapids, wow, but what a story from both teams.
Yeah, and look, the women's game, one of the things I think that stands out with the women's game is the ball skills. They don't have a lot of good ball skills, but they make the short passes. It's between a phase and not a phase. They are moving the ball, but they are moving it like 3 meters here to there, here to there, and of course they are not going to advance as quick as say a men would do. But the ability to move the ball, whether it's short or too close, I think it's one that stands. But if they had the ability, say the strength to move the ball a little bit, maybe 5-6 meters away, to create that separation. They play in the same zone for quite an extended time. Well, they are saying, I know that, but they are advancing is a bit difficult in the women's game, and how close the two teams are. I mean, it's testament of that for women's rugby.
Yeah, big congratulations to the Nile Rapids from us, and what a season for the She-Wolves. Hopefully they can continue that next year and probably shake some big tables, especially the Black Powers winning the regular 15 seasons and the Avengers winning the 7th season. So
The
three different
Thunderbirds winning
winners.
the sevens.
I mean, the Thunderbirds, I mean. So the three different winners for the ladies. But speaking about the boys, the Pirates doing the business. How focused were they on Saturday to make sure that they beat an old enemy?
The Pirates really wanted this tournament from the start. You could tell from the way they were playing. I think they had some of the highest scores in the tournament. That win against the Chigeze Silverbacks, that win against the Walukuba Barbarians, and unfortunately that win again against the Impis, that 66-20. Victory in the in the quarterfinals. Then they get into the finals. Now this is the semi-finals, and now this is when they start facing real opposition. When they played the Cobs, it is a game I feel like the Cobs could have won, but the Pirates wanted more, and the Cobs sort of just switched off. That moment where Franklin's good friend James Ijongat fails to find touch. You can't fail to find touch as a team, surely. So finding touch is when you get a penalty, and then because rugby is a game of territory and getting, advancing. So when you get your penalty, you kick out and find touch. So
when you find touch at that side, the ball is still yours, right?
Yes, the ball is still yours. You've gained meters. Now the ball is yours. You go for the line out and restart the game.
Yeah.
The Cobs were simply not finding touch on the day. And I think one of their best kickers was sort of nervous because this is a very big stage for Ibrahim Kemis, but he did well for himself, I would say. So that was the first real opposition that the Pirates faced in the Uganda Cup. Then they get into that final, and everything just goes south for the Heathens. First of all, the Heathens were without two of their starting props. I actually managed to talk to Senteza that very evening. I saw him around. He was still, you could tell that he's actually ill. You get like normal illness, not like sports over an injury or something. He wasn't feeling well. Then during the warm-ups, they lose another player, Albright Semper, and now that is their front row gone. They had to put a 45-year-old Scott Olwatch at the front row, and needless to say, he suffered. They put a Scott Olwatch there. Then they brought back Victor Wangobo. I had last seen him play in 2024. They brought him back to also play in that front row. He also suffered. I think he's called, that young man is called Ariho, and Ivan Kabagambi. They really had a good time playing against those people. And I've said this before on my ex that if at all I was a referee, I was going to send off one of those front rows, because how do you come to a 15s game and you can't scrimmage? That is like the bare minimum. You can't scrimmage. That is like, a serious set piece that you should be able to execute. Even before the game, World Rugby regulations will tell referees that meet the teams, ask them, show me your front row. This is your front row. Show me your replacement front row. And that is a requirement, not just for the game to proceed, but also for safety. Because you won't get, for example, a Kyle, and you put him up against Pajob. Aja kuvaa nga taina nsingo obanga spine bajimenye. You get, so it isn't safe, but also for the eye it is a sore to look at. But yeah, the first scrum they sort of held it because the game has just started. But then the rest of the scrums were actually very awful. And I partly also blame the Heathens number 9 who started the game, that is Nicholas Kato. Once you realize that your scrum is weak and your front row can't hold it, of course you can legally feed the ball in, but make sure you get it out as quick as you put it in. Now, why are you waiting for your 8th man to sort of figure it out?
Look for the ball, actually.
The front row is in front suffering, and then the 8th man is the one supposed to pull it out. And it was supposed to be a little bit faster because you know that your front row is weak. But anyway, they didn't show up on that front on the scrums. The lineouts, of course, were okay because you have an experienced Diego jumping. You have a player we have talked about. I think I've talked about him so much. AI thinks I'm him. Sylvester. Sylvester throws very well. So their lineouts were okay, but then the scrums, that is where the issues began from. Now, when they began the final, Heathens were still, sort of not in the front seat, but a bit comfortable. Yes, and then they go into a water break. I don't know what Coach Marvin told those boys in the water break, because when they came back, they were very different players. Yes, when they came back, there were two different. Two key players to look to mention. That is Haruna Muhammad and Alex Saturinda. Now, Alex, we all know he loves sevens. Even when he plays 15s, he's a player who will look for the gaps instead of going through the man.
Contact, yeah.
Now, Alex came back when he was a very different man. Of course, he's a big man. He can take the contact. But now this is an Alex, instead of maybe offloading or taking a little step to the side, this is an Alex who was going head on. And it was the first time for me to see him unlock that aspect of his game. Same thing with Haruna. Haruna never likes to take a lot of contact. When he dummies and it fails, he'll just go down and set up the play again. But he was also taking that contact and coming out on top. And then the whole team in general was very different when they came back from that water break, which is usually around the 20-minute mark over the 40-minute half. And then they go into the break ahead. Of course, when you look at the players who scored for them, that is Isaac Massa scoring that try. Earlier on, William Corey had scored a penalty to make it 3 for them. Then Massa scores that try, and William Corey scores. William Corey scores the conversion. Those are two players that featured the last time when the Pirates were winning the Uganda Cup. Them alongside, of course, Nathan Bwambali, the Desire Eras, they were there with the Pirates then. They are still there now. So it was only inevitable, and it only made the prediction very easy for our Octopus come this weekend to decide the winner. But then when they got into the second half, that is, I think there's a spell of about 10 minutes where I watched the worst rugby of my life. Okay, not, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Let me cut this one short a little bit. One of the things that I talked about last week is that the way Pirates defend, bad line out from Pirates in terms of attack, but also what saves them is how they defend. Pirates prefer to defend in the opponent's territory, kick the ball, and then defend from there. Heathens came knowing that is the part of the game that they should not allow Pirates to kind of have. And so, obviously, when you're starting a final, it doesn't matter who is playing for Heathens, it doesn't matter who is playing for Paris. There is that respect that you're going to accord the opponent. It is Heathens. It doesn't matter who is on the team, but it is Heathens. So at the start of the game, Pirates had that sort of respect. We're playing Heathens, okay? And something needed to change about how they were approaching the game. I think they approached the game with a lot of respect. Maybe you want to call it nerves to start. Of course, they were under pressure because with all due respect to Heathens, Pirates came into this final as the favorites because in terms of personnel and how they had been playing. But obviously, they had the respect for the team Heathens, not for the players who were on the pitch, but for the team. Of course, when you have Scott Oloch on the front row, that's trouble. When you have Sebli and Gonya on the back row, you know those are some old shoulders that cannot take the same hit as they used to back then. So you already have 3 players who do not have, I want to call them strong enough shoulders, or who have old shoulders.
In fact, 4, including Simon Diego.
Actually, and Olet. Olet is a little bit, okay, you can give him the pass, and you can, because you can cross him with the Centurion. What's his name? Skips my mind.
Humphrey,
yes. Humphrey and Diego can cross because pretty much the same size. They pretty much give the game the same. But the 3 old shoulders in that pack that pack was always going to go one. The scrum was always going to go one way, and when you have okay, but generally is Pirates had a lot of respect to start that game because they were playing against Citizens, not the players but the team, the name, and I think Coach Mavo needed to kind of communicate that the team you're giving a lot of respect. The players are not the players of back then when they used for tournament, and that needed to change. I think that communication was made very well, and it rang down to the players' heads, and they had to change something about it. But in terms of defending, they knew for sure one of the strengths that Pirates have had is how they defend, and it's the same thing that happened with the game against Cobs. It was their defense that came through for them. And in knowing that, you're always going to know that you have to do an extra in order to beat that Pirates defense. Little surprised that actually they tried, they considered out wide. Heathens wanted to actually score in the middle until they couldn't, and they had to move it out, score at the corner and kind of stuff. So in terms of the defensive setup, I think Pirates are a little bit more educated in how they defend, especially in their red zone. And that came through big time for them. That is the spell of bad rugby that he's talking about. But you go on.
Yes. Franklin, thank you for sanitizing that spill. But you are looking at the rugby that wasn't going anywhere. I'm even shocked that Franklin hasn't criticized that Yingiza rugby that he detests so much. You can't keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results. For example, in international rugby, Ireland is the one that knows how to put those phases together, but they have also moved away from that rugby. Now they put on about 3, 4, 5, 6 phases when nothing is happening. Yes, when nothing is happening there, then they move out the ball wide and sort of explore their other options. Heathens had about 8 minutes of doing that same thing, going and banging in the same area and banging. Probably the old school coaches will tell you, hit them until they don't want to put their shoulders anymore. But the Pirates never, weren't faced by all those phases. Unfortunately, in a moment of madness, Haruna Muhammad gets a yellow card. He slapped the ball forward. When the 9 was passing, Haruna put his hand and the ball sort of
Intentional knock on pretty much.
Yes, intentional knock on right in the red zone, and then he was sent off. But the only good thing to come out of that whole phase is that young scrum half Marvin Asaba. He sort of came in and moved the ball faster. He was picking all the right options. He wasn't letting the Pirates sort of counteract, because you would find that every time there is a breakdown, he's the first one to arrive there. Unfortunately, in some instances, would be the first one to arrive, and then he has to ruck to sort of protect the ball, because there is no one there, and you can't give Pirates that half inch. They will always sneak that ball. If you have players like Desire Yeda and Isaac Massa, they'll always sneak that ball and turn it over. You either let go of the ball or concede a penalty. So a young scrum half like Marvin Asaba coming into the final and sort of playing like he has been on this stage already. We have talked about how he was very clinical on that set piece of the scrum, making sure that the ball comes out as fast as it has gone in, but also stringing together those passes, especially in that ugly moment of rugby where they put, I think, about 20 phases on there and left with nothing. After sucking in that defense, ideally, your number 10, who was at wow on the day, should have called for that ball and swung it out wide. He's a 7th player, so he definitely has that pass on him, but that didn't happen. And the game sort of changed when they brought in, Walter Otim, another young player, and now you could see that Heathens was sort of playing on both flanks, better expansive rugby, and that was the only light in that moment. But on the other hand, William Corey, who was the man of the match on the day, he was exceptional when the Heathens scored that penalty again through Marvin Asaba. They scored the penalty, and the game was now at 13-5. But before that, William Corey had already put in 3 points to put it to 13. Then he scored another 3 points and then another 3 points, and that's how the game ended 19. So every time Heathens were getting a flicker of hope, Corey was just coming up and saying, not this time, and putting in those 3 points and even, creating that distance even further and making the margin bigger. And at that point, you could tell that the Heathens were sort of beaten, and it was impossible to come back, in that final. Then the other thing that we have talked about a lot on this show is the squad depth. Now you see that Heathens struggled because they lost 2 props like this. And now their whole game plan has changed. Their whole game plan has changed. There is a player arriving, when teams are warming up because it's an emergency replacement. But when you look at the other side for the Pirates, my good friend Frank Chidega got concussed. Got injured in the game against Cobs. But you could feel that he wasn't even missed on the day because Sidney Gongodio was in there with Eliphaz Emong, ideally doing the dirty work that Frank Chidega would be doing. And when you look at their substitute bench, you have your bench, your scrum is already suffering. And then you look on the bench, you see Ariho Muhumza, very big, strong boy. With front row, you're struggling, but you see the man warming up. But you see the man warming up. Meanwhile, that same Pirates bench had Alan Karuhanga and Timothy Chisiga on it. So you can tell that depth was also very important in that tournament, and depth is something that the Pirates have been enjoying. Maybe when they were playing Isaac Massa at 10, you could maybe say that now they are out of their depth and sort of experimenting with Massat. But he was having the time of his life there with his funny kicks, which were effective by that.
That's how the ball was kicking. Back then when they were claiming the Uganda Cup in 2017.
Exactly.
But one of the things I think that stood out for me in that final is that right now, Heathens doesn't have a clinical number 10. Everybody has gotten used to Aaron Oforoth doing the creative work for Heathens, and now
Aaron is number 10, 9?
Both.
Okay.
But the number 10, everybody has been used to Aaron doing the creative work in that Heathens side, pulling the strength here and there, and he has been very good at it. That in a way, they had forgotten about kind of modeling a number 10 until recently, because I think the last time we played as the number 10 was when we were still at Hippos back then, and now coming back. Ideally, as he was talking about the phases of banging, if it were Aaron, for example, after 5 failed phases, he would call for that ball, or even 3, would call for that ball to come out and then try to move and then go string it to another side. But again, the midfield, I didn't like it as well. The combination of Mike Amolo at 13 and Trevor Chan. Of course, coaches always want their backliners to be a little bit versatile. Ochan as a number 12, Amola as a 13. I don't think there was a lot of creativity, if I may put it that way, that came from that number 10, 12, 13. It wasn't there. Nothing you could see. Obviously, on the other side, when you have Kamiza and of course the captain, who have played for the whole season pretty much together with Nkore, there is a little bit of more coordination, a little bit of more understanding between them in that backline than there is with the Heathens. And so right now, if anything, how Coach Tolly is going to approach putting whatever Heathens back on track, I think is kind of trying to create a better midfield now that, of course, Gonya has been moved up front and Gokto is unavailable, I think.
Yeah, he got a surgery.
And now that midfield has to be changing a little bit, and then you have to model a number 10 who can kind of create, not as much as Aaron can, but who has that kind of potential.
Because when Aaron was for example, last season when they were winning the treble, when Aaron was coming in at number 10, you realize that Aaron had in his back a Malcolm Okello, who is now in the US, who was sort of coming in to play that as the second playmaker, and they were very unplayable last season. But before that, the last time he then struggled, they then went into the market aggressively once again. They brought in Chisano, they brought in Shadon Monoko and Patrick Okello from Kenya. Not this younger Patrick, the other older one. There is an older one. So they went into the market and they were quite aggressive in that market, and they brought in players. Now the challenge that Toli has, Coach Tolbert has, is that he has adopted a squad, and now he has to work with the players he has now as he models, either modeling the younger ones or looking around in the league or in the second division of Kenya and bringing in some firepower.
He's not going to look around.
I'm going to
Coach
cut you
Toli
short
likes,
to make sure we finish
building his stuff.
this rugby conversation. And the final one for Joseph. Was this a final game for... There was a rumor that Gonya might hang up his boots after this one. A man who's been on that path, if I had correct, they said 17 years. Started playing when he's... I don't know. 19, a long time anyway. But was this his final game on the local scene?
Well, that is what he says. But we have to remember that in 2019 he retired from the national 15s team and came back. I think retired from the 7s team, but never got the opportunity to be called back. But then again, he has also retired from Heathens a couple of times and still come back. I believe he still has something to offer. It is too soon to say that I should leave now when he's about 36 or 37, playing with teammates who are over 40. And you know that I digress, but the same Heathen side that has a 45-year-old Michael, Scott Olwatch. He was in that front row with a 20-year-old Sylvester. Now that's how bad things are for that squad. There is no in between out there. They have a 19-year-old Walter Otim. They have a 19-year-old Marvin Asaba. Then they have someone anyway. To get back.
Why is he struggling? Rugby players do not retire. They just take a break and then come back later.
And they also say that the final form or the final cycle of a rugby player is at the front row. Michael, when we hosted him here, he was telling us how he started at 15 and struggled a little bit because he hasn't been here. He has never been the best footballer. So he was moved from 15 to the center, and he was very good in there. Then he has now moved to the park. As you can see, the numbers just keep on reducing from 15 to 13 to 8. We may say that the man has retired, then he comes back at 4 or 5.
So you see, Joseph is sidestepping the question. Has Michael retired? We wait and see.
This should be the answer. That has been a very, very good rugby conversation from Joseph and Franklin, breaking down how the Uganda Cup final went down, both for the women and the men. The now Rapids winning the women's tournament, and the Pirates doing the double this season, defeating Heathens in the final. And Joseph, thank you very much. Pleasure to have you.
I would like to send my greetings to the Ginger Storm. We see you keep on disrupting the things down there in Ginger. The more the merrier. So the more the clubs, the merrier this rugby thing will be. Probably it shall also be extended to a 14-league team in about 2 or 3 years from now, because we shall have a lot of quality there. For example, the Ginger Sub-region alone has about 5 quality clubs. So it's okay. I support clubs breaking up. If at all something like that can happen at Pirates, I would be very happy.
Unfortunately, not anytime soon.
Yeah, Joseph Day and Ike Peace is chosen violence. But thank you very much, Joseph. Now we'll be switching up the conversations very, very quickly. And we'll go to the football. I'm sure this one also take some bit of digesting, because there's a lot of stories coming out of the Uganda Cranes camp. I think the last update I saw is that part of the team leaves today before they are joined by the rest of the guys for an 11-day camp in Morocco as they get ready for the Africa Cup of Nations tournament that will be starting very, very soon. But I think the biggest news coming out of, before we even talk about the team, the biggest news coming out of the Uganda Cranes camp has been the departure of the assistant coach Omulangira Sam Simbwa, and he's been replaced by Fred Muhumuza from Vipers. I don't know how that will affect the dynamics at Vipers, because I think of recent it has been a case where the assistant coach, it started with Fred Kajoba, the late Fred Kajoba, that the assistant coach can't hold down a club position, while he's also the assistant coach of the Cranes. I don't know whether it was a case of, what's the English word? Divided loyalties?
Something like that.
Something like that.
When Fufa had to take a bold decision.
Yes.
You're either here or there.
Exactly. Then the late Kajoa was even the head coach at Vipers. But now Fred Moves has been part of the coaching team. Last season, part of the duo that won the league title. And as we welcome Edwin Kaokule, he's been on top of this news. The departure of Sam Simbwa. Surprising.
Yeah, I'll start by greeting you, gentlemen. I was seated somewhere and I was enjoying a lot of rugby. And hopefully when I do more of the sitting as days go on, you never know, I might learn one or two. But I have a team I support.
You may learn more than the Rhinos that you support.
Yeah, I have a team I support, and I send my greetings to the future Rugby Cranes captain, Tembo, who plays Tembo Jeremiah, who plays for Rhinos. Someday you'll need to go through me.
Remember
and
the
say, you bring the man for an interview.
Tembo limps after every game. Like that can't be captain.
No, but he needs some time to rest, and that injury will be taken away. But going back to the main topic, for me, I get a challenge with some of these changes that happen. Sometimes our coaches are not given enough time to think about the decisions they're going to make, and so decisions are made according to. You look at your family, you look at the responsibilities you have, and then you weigh what's on table, and then you're like, I think I have no option, because this is something you're going to go and tell your wife, maybe your family members, maybe what. And even though they are going to hide in saying, no, your country's your pride and all that, but they are looking at that check and they're saying, man, you cannot leave this. And sometimes that is a challenge. And like you said, that you're not sure of what is going to happen at Vipers. We all await. Because this is a man that left Vipers and went to join the Chan technical bench while Vipers were preparing to go for the qualifiers of Champions League. And they didn't perform well. So this is a man leaving. Tomorrow, on Tuesday, Vipers will be playing against Calvary. And on Saturday, they will be playing against Bull. So you're not going to be around for 2 games, while you clearly know that Vipers are not in that place where they are comfortable on the table, that they can afford to draw points and everything is okay. Yet there is a team that normally gives you headache, that is Bull. So clearly, it's a bit tough. And for a man in Mulindwa who is not scared of making tough decisions, if a man loses his job at Vipers, for me it will not be a surprise.
Yeah, but I think he's always had their blessing when they've allowed him to go away and be part of the national teams.
Not clearly. And you remember even in the case that you earlier put up, the case of the late, he clearly asked him, you should make a choice. And Kajoba made a choice to go with the Cranes team. And for Kajoba, it was about pride. He said it's a proud moment to represent the country. So that's why he took that choice. Yeah. So clearly, Mulindwa will not allow this familiarity of moving out and in his team. Surely it is not. I don't think it is something he will take home.
Proper headmaster style. But Franklin, speaking about the change, the swapping individuals, of course, very competent, Fred Muhumuza. But I think the timing of the decision to let Sam Simba go when the team is, barely a few days to get together before they start the tournament. I think it's a timing.
Maybe what do you mean when you say competent?
He has the qualifications, and he did well with Mole Biekwaso for during Chan.
No, but for me now, that is where I find the challenge. are we going to just say that if someone has qualifications, then they are capable of taking the job? Or we have to ask a few questions?
I think the first principle is you need
what
to have the
qualifies you to get the job
qualifications.
is to have to
Yeah, what
qualifications.
qualifies you
I
first
think
are the
I think for
qualifications.
the point of Uganda Cranes, it's more than just the qualifications. It should be you going through some ranks that are visible. I'll give an
Like,
example.
yes.
I'll give an example. When you look at the national team setups of Morocco, these coaches have been rising with their teams. When you look at the current team that took the World Cup of under 20, this is a guy that started with them in the under 12. He took them to the under 15. He later on took them to the under 17, and he was given the job to take them to under 20. If such a guy replaces the head coach at some time, you clearly understand. We saw how the Morocco team was performing in Chan, but they were not using their head coach. So these guys have taken a decision to empower their coaches and create a conveyor belt that if it's a process, then it can go on smoothly. And I think that is the way to go. Because if you look at Sam Simba in the position that he was in, he's a guy who has been around in the on the local scene for time. So now you think that since as a nation, we've never had a chance to have our local man, we now have a guy who is working closely with the Belgian gaffer, that is Paul Put. If they work together for 4 years, we expect that Sam Simba should be ready to take over as the head coach.
Yeah.
But now, from nowhere, I don't want to say that Muhumuza came from space.
Did Mitchell have local assistants?
No, what I want to raise, what I want to raise is this, that we have to put an end
Yeah.
to the point of come in, go out.
Yeah.
The national team should
There has
not
to
be
be a
like a
process.
toilet that you just go in at a time of ease and move out.
There has to be a process.
There should be a process.
Yeah.
And that process should be a clear process that we clearly know. For example, if Molebeko took this job, I would be happy. He's a guy who has worked with the under 20. He's a guy who has worked at least in 1 or 2 teams as the head coach in the local league. He's a man, maybe you will also take the age and say, okay, this guy has time to grow and take all these ranks. So he can clearly take it. And even for the role that we saw him handling in Chan, I think he had a decent job.
Yeah, but you make a fair point. But I also feel that Fred Momza is there because he's earned the position. Nothing has been handed to him or given to him.
He's been chosen.
Nothing has been handed or given to him.
Then-
But frankly, I wanted to ask about the timing of the decision. Could they have let, considering that Sam Simba had been part of the process of getting the team to AFCON, maybe they could have moved on after Morocco and then sort of start all over again to prepare the team that is going to represent us when we host the tournament in 2027?
To start with, that team that we have, that they have named has 9-10 local players who
Yeah.
play in the local league or who were part of the Chan team. Okay, and if anything, in terms of the national perspective, you'd think that Mahomza has an idea or two
Some context
of
on the local
how those
content.
players can fit into the bigger picture of the national team. Of course, they were working under the supervision of Put,
Put.
yeah, during that Chan campaign.
I felt a bit weird.
Yeah.
It would always come out of the dugout with the team, and
It was
So-
more than supervision.
yeah, it was like you're trying to.
To take the limelight, but
Yeah.
I think if anything, the selection of Mahomes and I mean to take charge of the Chan team, I think that should have sent some sort of signal to Sanya, because naturally it would be some Simba's assistant handling the Chan team
Yeah.
if there was any sort of continuity that you're looking at that point. But having
And I think there were
yeah,
mamas there. Everyone was wondering
Yeah.
why not him and others.
I think there were signs. There were signs that I think the exit door was starting to open. When they overlook you and then they're going for another pair, to take charge of the home-based players.
And even in the trainings, it
And
wasn't
training,
wasn't visible in them, but Paul Put was very visible
Yeah,
in the
but
trainings.
you see that kind of shows that an exit door is opening for you. Just that I think those subtle signs were taken quite lightly by everyone. I mean, including Sam Simba himself.
But they were not. Maybe the man was just waiting and saying, maybe things can change.
Exactly, that's why I'm saying that those subtle signs. I think,
Because you see, Frank,
But in positions like those that are very
Frank,
critical,
you see, Dennis, I don't know if it happens in other disciplines. In football, there is a vice of sending away people. And they send you mpola until you sent away.
Yes, there
It's
is you
with
out.
players, it's with coaches. For example, up to now, we don't know if Mia will ever come back to the Uganda Cranes or not. He's slowly being dashed out. When you look at some of the most experienced coaches, you never know how they are sent out of the whole phase. Before you know, now we have there's a certain street that normally says Enobanchi Impia, like new products. Now we have new coaches. That mujiji of Muhumuza Molebie Kwaso. Okay, Alexis Abide might be a bit.
Coach Brian at
You're going to talk
Senyondo.
about Coach Senyondo, Jackson Magera, those coaches. Now, clearly, when you go to the sides of now the Paul Nkatas, I think now those are way the other side. The likes of Matia Lule,
George Nsimbe.
the likes of George Nsimbe, the likes of Abdallah Mubiru, the likes of Mike Mutebi. Those are guys that are now being put aside. And now all attention is all of a sudden switched to the likes of Brian and what, which is not bad. But it is better if it is done through a process. Because, for example, who wouldn't want a man like Mike Muntebi to be part of the technical team of Uganda Cranes? Who wouldn't want a man like Abdallah to be part of the technical team? The likes of Mbabazi. These are guys who have played. These are guys who have coached, and they have experience. If they are given such a job, you feel like there is chance for the likes of Muhumuzas to learn the likes of Brian. For example, the trajectory that Brian is taking, if he went with that team to the under 20, you'd feel it makes sense. If he went with the team to under 23, it would still make sense.
because it's the same
But
generation
now,
of players.
he has already been also put aside on the other under 17 team. Of course, now you're asking yourself, if that guy remains with the under 17, can Brian go with this team to the under 20? That would make sense. So these coaches will be given time to learn their craft, because some of the things are easy when you're on this side of watching. You know, you clearly say, this coach has no style, this coach doesn't do this right. But there are lessons that come with experience, and those will never be taught in class. So at a time when Muhumuza hits the crossbar at that age, where is he sent? That means he will be dashed out of everything when he's still at an early age.
Yeah, maybe they are looking at him for the long term. But that switch made by the Uganda Cranes to have Fred Muhumuza replacing Sam Simbwa as the assistant coach to Paul put during the AFCON, I mean, it has been strange, I think, for me, just in terms of the timing. But nonetheless, I think people come and move on.
Then you talk about the timing being strange, but it has not happened out of the blue. That
It is something that was coming.
It is something that there were signs that it is coming.
Then
Okay,
Simba's coming. The timing.
You know?
Like I said, it's the timing, but the signs have been there.
Yeah.
They to make it official was just formalizing,
Formalizing what has already
It's also
been.
not yet
what has
official.
been known. what has been known.
It's not yet official.
I mean, we are credible news. News.
No, I mean,
do you think the federation is going to walk
I
back?
mean, no, we are credible that we know what you're talking about. But FOFA has not yet come out to say officially, this is our. This
say
is
so
our
an official
system.
communication
It's,
that,
it's what I'm asking. Do you think
the
that they are
contract
going to
for
walk
some
back?
will not be renewed?
No,
That's
but
official.
of course, we don't know. We don't know if this man has been given a contract.
Okay.
He might also still be on a
He
try
may-
and error.
Okay, we'll wait and see if the AFCON assignment is his only assignment with the
This
Uganda
man
Cranes.
feels so bad.
We
No,
know which
but,
side he's on, so
No, but I'm only speaking out loud.
we won't drill him so much. But let's speak about the team that has been chosen to represent us at the AFCON. Let me start with the surprises from each one of you. My only surprise for me, I think, was Charles Lukwago from the local based players, and that is where my focus really is. I'm surprised. he has been the best, the most outstanding of the 16 options we have in the league in terms of goalkeepers. I know Joe Mutakuwa moved on from Vipers, I mean from Bull, and went somewhere in Ethiopia, I think. But Lukwago has not looked like he hasn't looked. He's decent enough, but he hasn't looked business.
It's
the
not
KCCA.
even decent, Karen.
He hasn't looked business in the
If
KCCA.
you were ranking the current goalkeepers in the local league at home, he would be on the lower bottom. I don't want to say maybe the position and what, but he will be one of
Bottom
those
8.
that are not ranked highly, because there are even games where he has cost the team, and
Yeah.
you can clearly see he's not yet back at his best. But sometimes, coaches think about team players that have been around,
Yeah.
players that can easily acclimatize with the stage and the environment and everything. But let's not forget, this is a provisional squad. There are 2 players that are going to be dropped, most likely, because CAF says they take 28.
Yeah.
And among the people that I expect to be dropped, Lukwago is number 1 candidate to be dropped.
And number 2 should be Isaac Amleme.
No, I will not go to number 2, but I think
It's like Mulemo
Okay,
is-
but you talk about surprise. I think my surprise is Isaac Amleme.
somehow he always plays. He always
Somehow
features for the Uganda
he's
Cranes.
always in the Uganda Crane squad, but barely gets on the pitch. It has been a while since he got onto the pitch. And
I think
right
it's
now,
gonna be
I don't think
it's going to be difficult to dislodge Aziz Kayono.
Kayon.
from that now.
And look, left back is not one of our struggles as a country. I think we have always had that sort of opulence from Jajawalu, Ochaya, and then of course Aziz now. Of course, Ochaya was not that good, but he was there.
No, why I'm shaking my head is that I'm feeling sorry for a certain man who plays for KCC, Herbert Achai. If they had not played that Morocco game, somehow the guy would have put up his hand. But that game took him I don't know how many steps behind. There is a game that you go in and you're asking yourself, I wish I got sick and I was not, because he was totally exposed.
But even Herbert will tell you,
Of course, he has been telling teammates that was a day to forget, really. So, for me, if I was the one choosing, I would have taken Herbert. Why? You want to take your local players at such stages, more so knowing that you have an Aziz Kayondo who has grown through the ranks and is now playing in Europe. So you do think, yes, Herbert can pick 1 or 2 things from such a stage, and so I will be building. But now getting a man like Isaac Muleme who plays in Czech Republic and he's going to be on the bench, and he's also quite aging on the other side of age. So you want to think, Taina Chatongera Konyo for the future.
Yeah.
Yet Herbert,
If you're looking ahead,
yes, yet Herbert could be
one of the guys
something.
look to. For
Yes, because I can tell you Herbert is not a bad player.
Yeah.
We all have bad days in office, but that was a bad day in office. But on any other day, he's one of the decent left backs that we have. He can cross the ball. He
left back, full back. I think he's proper.
He will
fullback.
give you different things. I can tell you. So I felt sorry for him as a player.
Franklin, any other surprise apart from Isaac Muleme?
I think the rest, of course, you already mentioned Lukwago. I wouldn't even put him anywhere close to the team. I think they put him for the experience, or just to fill numbers. But what has been putting out...
But usually in a tournament, there are 3 keepers, no?
Yeah. What has
So
been
meaning
putting out...
one of them will have to be dropped.
He's the one who's going to be dropped.
Because you definitely think it won't be Dennis Onyango or Salim Jamal.
Nah.
Yeah, by the way, some people are wondering why Dennis didn't travel with the team. Dennis has a few issues with the family. He's going to join the team on Wednesday, but he's in the country, so people should not fear. The man is going to travel.
Any other surprise?
I think for me that was
The
two
other
major
could be Bogere.
surprises.
Yeah.
Not like a surprise on the bad side,
Yes,
but
James Bogere.
some people would say maybe he's still young and what. But I think that is one choice that is very good for a player of his
It will
age.
be interesting to see if he's kept into the team. I have a feeling it will be one of those that will be chopped.
Me, I would even want him to be on the pitch, actually.
for me, I pray that he makes the final squad. You see, we don't have many camp players on the ball, such as that gentleman. And so if you give him the chance to
It's
go,
barely a boy.
okay, I'm a gentleman or what? But if you look at the way he operates and handles himself, he clearly tells you that he's a ready player. And you see, we've seen players play for the national team at that age. You're going to talk about Yamal. He's doing a lot of things for the team. You're going to talk about the likes of Amad Diallo, who are already playing on their different national teams, like in Ivory Coast. So if you go with such a player, you've given him a chance to first learn what happens at this stage, like what really happens, expectations. He clearly starts to gel and become part of the national team. By the time he's way ready, he will be in there. And clearly, as a team or as a nation, we've suffered. We've not had very sharp goal scorers. That's why we've been pumping around. Since my man, Emmanuel Oku, was also sent away in a gentle manner, we've failed to get that lethal
Proper
goal
number
scorer.
9 from,
Yeah, that's
Geoffrey.
why we are bouncing on the Mubirus.
Geoffrey Massa.
Lorenzen.
But I wanted to ask 9 local based players, and the rest of the team is, from anywhere in the world. Is that I mean, the Chan boys really did well and they made us very proud. But there hasn't been so much reward for them, you would say.
Yeah, I think Paul Put has been looking for consistency with his squad since he came. Some of these foreign guys, you may call them foreign, but they were part of the chanting before they moved. Out they were recently in local leagues. You're talking, I
Jude
mean,
Semugabi.
Jude Semugabi in South
Omedi.
Sudan, or Dennis Omedi.
Jude
Uganda.
Samgabi not playing much at
They are more like local
his new
players.
side.
These are more like guys who are playing at home, pretty much, because it's not been a year since they were away, and they are not very far from home. So they are pretty much, I would pass them for home-based players, much as they're in different countries. And so they still kind of have this local home feeling to them, and they have been part of Paul Put's squad. Over the time that has been around. And when you look at the squad that is named, there's a lot of consistency with the player that he has been using during the qualifiers of the World Cup, and of course for AFCON itself, and then the few lads that impressed during the run at Chan.
All right. Any notable names missing, Kyle?
Notable missing. No, you're going to talk about maybe Ochaya. You're going to talk about Khalid. Those are some of the players that have been in there. But for me, I have no problem with this team at large. When I look at it, I feel some of these players have been coming in. Of course, you're going to talk about the new players in the team. Maybe those that we didn't see much in the qualifiers. That is Melvin. And you're going to talk about Baba. They didn't appear so much. But you feel all the players that have been coming into this squad, somehow the coach knows exactly when to introduce them. Most of us were complaining and saying the right back, I forget the name, the boy who plays in England. I don't know why the name is running away, but that guy, we normally kept asking, why is this guy not starting? Bomono was just back home. No, there's a.
Not Obita.
No, Obita plays in the centre back.
The name has skipped my mind.
Surely, I don't know why, but he's a very good friend to the females. They really support him way past. No, Kapodossi plays in the centre back. I'm talking about the right back. I don't know, but we always kept asking ourselves, why isn't this guy starting? Not until he started in the game against Somalia, and from that time he has commanded and said, this is my position. Even when we played against Morocco, you felt most of the guys were not comfortable. They looked like they were not belonging. But on his side, you felt, yes, even on the bad day, he still looked a bit decent. So when you look at some of these new players that are coming in, I only want to give the coach a benefit of doubt and say, okay, let me just wait and see how they will be used. Because when you talk about Baba, he's just 25-year-old. He has some good height. He has the energy. in the game against Morocco, we didn't see much, but in the game against Chad, at least we saw that he's a defensive midfielder that can help you progress the game. He can drive the ball, and he has that good long pass that we missed from Bobosi. So we can only wait and see. But for me, I cannot complain much that there is a certain player who has been so good and has been left out.
Okay, Franklin's, anyone missing that you think?
I think for the players that we have, and based off what the coach has been looking out for, I think he put the best that he wants. There's not any serious notable omission.
Yeah, there's been news last week that I don't know, I haven't seen it on the Sundowns platform, but there was an announcement that they are moving on from.
Dennis,
from
just
Dennis
the name is Toby Sibik.
Yeah, Toby Sibik. Yeah, they are moving on from Dennis Onyango as a player, but he's going to remain part of the Sundowns family. Does that also mean that probably the AFCON will be his last engagement with the Uganda Cranes
As a player.
As a player? Yes.
Yes. Of course, he had already moved on as a player. Of course, his return was a bit surprising for many around football. Of course, including the guys here, football guys here for now to return. We thought he had retired, but we with all due respect, I think this is going to be his last tournament.
All right. Interesting.
But the interesting point is that we've seen his son somewhere as a goalkeeper, and when we see such things, we want to get a bit excited and say maybe omuzimu gw'ataata guyinza olinnyo omwana.
Clearly, Mr. Self-Hands is passing on the skills to his son. So interesting. That has been the conversation about the AFCON team that is going to represent Uganda at the tournament in Morocco this month. And like I've mentioned, we have a special tab on the website where you can go and click and find all updates about the tournament, fixtures, features on the teams, group previews, and the star players to look out for. So make sure you hover to that tab. You will see AFCON 2025. It has all those details from our football experts, Edwin Kaokule, David Isabire, Joel Muita, and Koja Ismail Chiyonga. All of them are putting the updates in that group. But I'll tell you that the Kawowo team will be in Morocco as well. So it's going to be a big party for us as we bring you all the updates from down there. The Kawowo party, for our best viewers, you're invited. Just make sure you send us a comment. We'll send you the address and the pin to our office for you to be part of our end of year party this year. All your favorite sportsmen, writers, and presenters will be at that party. So if you want to touch Kyle's beard, please make sure you come through on that particular day.
Producer as well.
and if you also want to see the producer, the other day I saw someone asking, "Na yeye mbu watch the way posting akone tukulava." So if you want to see the producer of the weekly Wowos, make sure you come through for that Kawowo party, but only for the people who are our best viewers. That has been the conversation for us this week. A very long conversation of rugby and football, but I hope I hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with an interesting episode, but this time I think it will be the football guys putting it together, because just before that show they'll be departing for Morocco. They'll give you a full detail of how it's going to be happening in Morocco and what you should expect. So we'll have a special edition for that AFCON tournament before the guys head out. But I've had the pleasure of hosting Joseph Manu Humuza, a resident rugby expert, Edwin Kaokule, our football expert, the editor of Kawowo Sports, Franklin Kawero, and my name is Dennis Musali, and I'm your weekly host. But as always, make sure you keep reading Kawowo Sports.